Hi, I'm Deborah Bly with the Bly Team here at eXp Realty, and I am here with Matthew Hill, also one of our local experts. So we both work in this area, the Houston, Galveston, Gulf Coast, all area really, right?
Pretty much.
So we're going to talk today about, this is a misconception. I know you get the calls, and I know I have clients give me the phone calls sometimes. They buy a home, they get an insurance policy, they're happy with everything, and then 6 months later or a year later, there's that phone call that they make to put in a claim, and they find out that it's not covered. So insurance doesn't cover the any and every and be all of everything. Why don't you tell people or share with people what is covered by your insurance? So first of all, there's
3 types of policies if you're in a coastal county, potentially, and then there's 2 types of policies if you're in Harris or Fort Bend or further north from that. There's a homeowners policy. Sometimes that will cover wind and hail if you're in anywhere except for one of the 14 coastal counties. Then there's also flood insurance. If you are in Galveston, Brazoria, Chambers counties, you probably have a windstorm policy from Texas Windstorm Insurance Association.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the homeowners policy is going to cover everything that is covered except for wind and hail and flood. Obviously, the flood policy just covers flood. The windstorm policy covers windstorm and hail. And that can be wind from a normal straight line wind, from a tornado, or from a hurricane. The hazard, homeowners or fire policy, it's all the same. It traditionally covers fire. It's going to cover lightning. It's going to cover damage from falling objects not caused from wind.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cover vandalism,
Okay.
malicious mischief, and usually a vehicle colliding with your house.
That happens here sometimes.
Unfortunately, I've filed that a few times.
Yeah.
So that's what it normally comes with. Then there are some policies that will have extended coverages. They'll cover broken pipes and accidental discharge. It's not the actual pipes, it's the damage resulting from the broken pipes. There's wind-driven rain. Now that's usually on your windstorm policy. Also, if you're in Harris or Fort Bend County, it could be covered under your homeowner's policy. I've only had this happen once. A plane.
Really?
We have.
Wow.
It stuck in a roof.
Wow.
You see it on the news every now and then.
It actually happened here.
Had it happen to a client.
So what about, let's just say you have a foundation issue.
Perfect. So on a foundation, there's a couple different ways that you can have damage. The first one is from a cracked slab. That is going to be excluded under all perils in Texas because every single policy has a exclusion for earth movement.
Mm-hmm.
For earthquakes. There are some in Texas apparently. But if you get a cracked slab, it's not going to be covered unless it was cracked from a fire, from something colliding with the house, from wind. Usually that's pretty rare, but it could.
Okay.
If it's cracked because we're in a drought, or it's cracked because the house is shifted, it's not going to have coverage.
Okay.
There are some coverages that will say limited slab or foundation coverage. What that coverage is for is if a pipe underneath your slab breaks. That's the cost to tunnel underneath your slab to get to the broken pipe and fix it.
Okay. But it's not going to be the cost of fixing the slab.
It is not. It is a
So it's going to be a
misconception.
partial kind of.
I wish they would label it differently.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of power with these companies. They all do it incorrectly.
What about mold?
So mold gets,
Because that was a big thing for a while.
it was in 2000. Mold is real technical. So for mold to be covered in this area, usually what happens is it has to be from a broken pipe claim, and it has to be from direct physical contact of the water.
Okay.
So it can't be because you walked away from the house, left it for a month, and came back and there was mold spores everywhere. They would just cover the mold that the broken pipe, the water from the broken pipe touched.
So let's talk about one of the things that is a big thing, I think. If you're like me, and we have a little hailstorm this winter, you're going to get that knock on the door from these people that come around. They're going to look at your roof, and they're going to say, oh yeah, it needs to be replaced, just file an insurance claim. Do you guys cover Roof replacement?
So there can be roof replacement. There's going to be two different types of losses that usually result in roof replacement. One is hail, the other one is wind. So from a hailstorm, the person that knocks on your door is going to tell you, usually, this is what I'm told from all my clients: I was working on the house across the street and I can see that you have hail damage. Now, to get a new roof from a hailstorm, there's a formula that they use, and it's usually 8 strikes per square. So for people that don't know, a square is a 10-foot by 10-foot section. They'll go up to the top of the roof. Sometimes they use a drone, but sometimes they'll get up on the roof and they'll use chalk and they'll mark a 10-foot by 10-foot section and circle the number of strikes. So when the person said, I can see that you have hail damage, but there are only 3 strikes in that 10-foot by 10-foot section, that's not going to get you a new roof. If you have a 4-sided roof, and this is all the insurance companies, they all operate the same way, you're going to need to have damage of 8 strikes per square on at least 3 of those 4 sides to get a new roof.
A whole new roof. Now they can cover one side.
They can cover one side, but generally that doesn't meet deductible, unfortunately.
Okay. The other question I was going to ask you is, we were talking about roofs. We were talking about windstorm. So that's another instance where you guys would cover.
Correct. So we did file quite a few windstorm claims during the hurricane last year.
Beryl.
And then also during Ike we filed even more. But there's a couple different ways they file it. One is you go outside and you look up at your roof and you're missing 200 shingles. That's pretty much an easy one. Yeah. But then it gets a little more questionable because you'll have a roofer and they'll say you have lifted shingles, and depending on the age of the roof, it depends on how they're gonna file that claim and whether they're gonna pay it or not. Because if you have a 22-year-old roof and you have lifted shingles, the reality is, once your roof gets over 15 years old, a lot of the insurance companies have put a depreciation schedule built into their policies. Now, this is not applicable to Texas Windstorm. They don't have a depreciation schedule, but all the other companies, it seems like I think I represent over 60 homeowners companies right now, and probably 90% of them have that built into their policy.
Saying that, and since we're talking about, what's covered, what's not covered, let's just say, as an example, you have a roof and it's going to get replaced. Let's just say that roof is going to cost you $15,000, $20,000. You're not going to be covering the full $15,000, $20,000. Your first, what's going to come off the top of that is going to be your deductible. And then potentially, depending on what kind of policy you have and where it's located at, you're going to have roof depreciation.
So if the roof is older than 15 years old, you're definitely going to have it. It's on every single policy out there.
Except for, didn't you say
Texas Windstorm and Texas Fair Plan.
Okay.
Those are the 2 state-run programs. They do not have roof depreciation.
Okay, so under those 2 plans, you have let's just say you're going to get a $20,000 roof. All you're really out of pocket then, I say all, it's thousands of dollars. All you're really out of pocket then is your deductible.
Correct.
Cool. I hope this answers all of your questions about what's covered, what's not covered. If you have a question about something else that we didn't cover, feel free to reach out. We're going to put Matthew's number down below so you can feel free to reach out and talk to Matthew. Don't call me. He knows insurance. I know real estate, and he'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thanks for having me, Deb. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.